Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your patience with us. For those of you who watched me bring through Oneness when we did it live the last time, it was such a technical problem that we had to edit the entire YouTube for probably 8 days. So when we're channeling such intense energies, sometimes these kind of things just happen. So Jennifer has on her headphones. She had to turn off her camera, so you won't be seeing her today, but you'll be hearing her really clearly. She has some amazing questions that she is prompted intuitively to ask, and they are really profound. I just can't wait to bring in this collective. I've been working with them for a week now. They've really made some big changes in my life. So I began channeling Oneness, I want to say around age 11, and it has always gone really well for me. They are incredibly simple. You can ask complicated questions and they make it so simple that there's nothing to wonder about. This is what I love about them. They are Arcturian in nature. They are a group of prime creators who call themselves Adonai, and down at a simple level beyond that soul group, into light, they call themselves Oneness. But in the projected human form, they are Adonai, for those of you who are curious about galactic background and the level of creation that you're dealing with. So prime creators are fascinating beings. This is the group who, from a galactic history standpoint, connects directly to that of Serapis Bey and the divine architects. We have that as well. So this is, if you follow time, if you believe in time, in the dream or illusion, this precedes, Serapis Bey and the divine architects. Adonai, it is spelled Adonai. I'm going to do a quick sound check and make sure that you can hear me and that you can hear my facilitator. Then we'll begin. You will need to ask your questions in the Ask a Question section as opposed to in the chat, because she will not be following chat. She will only be following the Ask a Question section. And we have a couple of questions that were there from Patreon as well, but there were only 2 that we saw before we got into channeling today. Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Can everyone hear me? Let's check Jennifer's connection.
And testing, 1, 2, 3.
Everyone can hear Jennifer? Okay.
Okay, good. All right.
All right. I'm going to go into trance, and they will make it clear when they're ready for you to begin. Nope, they took me out of trance. Hold on. All right, they wanted me to check because it looked like I was trying to record in HD. We can't do that because it won't replay, and they can't fix that. Good call.
Good
right? When God wakes you up from trance and says, check your computer. Trying again. I am that which instills the embodiment of oneness. I am the collective wholeness of all that is. Within the unity of mastery that precedes the witnessing of consciousness, I am the sound that ignites the fire of all that is unity. I am the creative projection of the we, the he, the she, and beyond the is, the it. I am that which is oneness. I welcome all inquiry.
Thank you for coming. The first question is, can you please talk about how our families, ancestors, kin here on earth are related to our original soul groups? Do we stay in the same group forever and incarnate in the same group time continuum?
Simplify your question by remaining outside of human complications.
When we incarnate, do we stay within the same, continue to incarnate in the same soul group, or do we incarnate outside of other soul groups?
Within isness, there is only one group, one being, one family. Within the creation of unreality, when you are dreaming, you create the idea, the thought, and concept of many families, many groups, many creative expressions of this oneness. Within your illusions, why would God project through you? Within a limitation, you perceive oneness as creative limitation. Oneness honors this projection of limited understanding. To answer your query, within the dream, there are many expressions of such oneness, and you are creating beautifully, uniquely, and collectively. And inside of the dream, there are many dreams within many continuing dreams and many families. However, within reality of oneness, there is always one. And that is all.
Thank you. What are some of the best techniques we can use to connect with you in a strong way?
Why do you seek the continuation of the belief that you are disconnected, lost, broken, isolated? You are whole. You are one. You are free. Your beliefs continue the time and space distortion within your dreams that you are broken, lost, fragmented, disconnected, unintegrated. Has my question answered yours?
Yes, that was a great answer. What is the best way to overcome our most deep-rooted and persistent limiting beliefs, especially in regards to abundance?
Within your dream, the mentality and concept of lack implies that you are empty, and that empty is fear, that empty is aloneness. You are an empty vessel that is awaiting the full nature of God realization. How full will you choose to be upon the realization in your dream that you are whole? When you begin to perceive within the dream that emptiness is not fear, is not isolation, and that going beyond in your language, that no concept of not can possibly even exist with the exception of human resistance. Abundance is a word within your dream that creates a core concept that you have began from something that is lacking in abundance. You believe that you must obtain abundance as if it began as a not or a lack of. When you can perceive the trust in being the empty vessel and allowing yourself to feel full, to trust the quiet stillness of full expression when you are not witnessing consciousness, when you are void of all of your creative thought and still feel full, then you are abundant. And then all that wishes to be created, all that is wanted, will show itself within your dreams. Is your query complete?
Thank you. Is ascension related to coming out of the dream, as you say? When you ascend, is that you coming out of the dream?
Why do you wish to retract yourself and extricate yourself from the beauty of the dream that you continue to create? And then you perceive a coding and language between the human word ascension and the other words that imply the lack of. What are you in your dream when you perceive that you must obtain ascension and enlightenment as if it never was? What are you without these thoughts? There can be no obtaining or gaining of ascension. You are already an enlightened, full God being. Awakening from the dream is simply the realization of this truth, and that is all. There is no lack of creativity unless you choose to stop creating within your illusion. You are here to integrate and find the still void between the stories of being lesser than and not and higher than.
So how do we, it's programming that's causing us to feel the lack and everything that you're referring to. So how do we reverse the programming that's caused this?
When you choose and become conscious that you are witnessing your dream, you begin to dream from a perspective that is neutral. And within this unattached perspective, you do not plan for a future that does not exist.
Okay.
Within the attempts to control your realities by judging what is past and which no longer exists, or attaching to that which has not arrived, you are not being the witness to the powerful moment of the present. When you begin simply by witnessing the power of your expression within your present moments, you lose attachment to planning your future. And when this occurs, you can understand how to stop the ever-perpetuating cycles of what you are calling karma, and of what you are calling pain, punishment, suffering. Simply let go. Release. It is as easy as breathing to accept that you do not and will never know the perfect answer, that all is complete and whole in its present isness.
When we get to that point of being able to view, as you said, the dream sort of and knowledgeable of it, will all aspects of ourselves be acknowledging this at the same time?
Time is not present within this consciousness. There is no concept within isness of fractals or separation from God.
Gotcha. Okay. Another question is, how can we best move through and out of fear? If we are consciously choosing love, then why does fear creep in? Is it for more transmutation, or is it due to other programming that needs clearing?
You are perceiving that you cannot be at peace within your thoughts and dreams of fear. When you begin to integrate and become thankful for your fear, then you begin to release the concept of suffering when you fear. And then the entire definition of fear will be reborn into the isness of love that has always been and will always be. It is simply a difference in your perspective.
So there was a point then that fear was perceived the same as any other feeling. It didn't have such a heightened, like you said, suffering. And we can get back to that point of understanding fear to be the same as love and anything else. Is that correct?
Fear is a creative choice. It is simply a warning signal and nothing but. When you begin to judge it as a catastrophe, then it becomes your greatest missing of the mark, which you have labeled as sin, guilt, shame, which has provided a creative conditioning of your collective. And then you collectively created man's thought of suffering when it was never meant to be in your dream.
Is there ever a point when fear is needed? Like, let's say, locking your home at night if you live in an unsafe neighborhood? Or should you get to the point where you don't fear anything at all?
Perceive and respect and honor that fear is a sign that you are missing the mark of oneness, because when fear is present, love is not, and it is simply that. If within your fear it is graduated to catastrophe, and you believe, as you have stated, that your home and your illusion would be unsafe, then fear creates this illusion. It is a
Gotcha.
tricky balance.
Right. If you are enlightened or spiritually awake in one lifetime, how does it? Oh, I think you answered this question. We're all connected with everything occurring at once. Do you spontaneously awaken in all lifetime experiences, past and future? Yeah, I think you answered that. Do we each have our own dream? If we want to choose love, and there are so many to love, how to choose which love to help more? What does choose love really mean from a oneness point of view?
Allow us to simply restate your question to that of a true oneness perspective.
Thank you.
Could you perceive, perhaps, that when you choose to love one being, that you are simultaneously loving all? That when you see, feel, know, and sense God in any being, including yourself, that you are giving and loving and choosing this love for all? Outside of your dreaming, there is no other perspective. Does this answer your query?
Yes, that was a great answer. Uh, the next question is, what is the difference between dream and illusion?
A dream is simply a neutral integrated concept with no attachments of something that is hierarchical, of something that is conditioned to be this or that, one or the other. A dream is simply a dream that is witnessed and not judged. And you are witnessing minus judgment, minus attachment, then it is a creative dream that is allowing for perfect expansion within your wholeness and oneness. Illusion is when you are witnessing your consciousness as being lesser than, greater than this or that in a lack perspective. Illusions hold fear. Dreams don't often.
Thank you. What kind of the divine healing method is recommended by the Arcturian for the mind, body, and soul?
There is no such method. Within oneness, we do not rely upon method. You are not bodies. Bodies within egos require methods and modalities. Spirit is trust that you are already whole.
Thank you. Let's see, how many of us have Arcturian DNA and or origins? Do we all have it within us as part of our makeup? What are some markers to look for in order to identify these genes?
Within the creative illusions and dreams, the Arcturian soul families in collective dreamings are rare, and you have chosen this to perceive that you would be outside of oneness and to teach a perspective that many in your human collective are not ready for. We cannot place human percentages or answer your question in a way that applies to modalities and science. But just know that you have chosen a perspective of believing that you are disconnected. And when you awaken, you understand the value of such. You are perceiving when you are in your dream as a neutral family, and you are teaching from such neutrality and balance. When you are expressing as Arcturian families in the illusion, you are perceiving things that humanity has forgotten within divine discernment of God wisdom. You are perceiving within unique abilities of cognizance. And cognizance is from the mind of spirit, not from the brain of intellect.
Thank you. Who are the Arcturians on the earth and what is their mission? What is the sacred triangle?
Your query alludes to the belief in modalities and cannot be answered in the proper time and space distortion that you will understand at this time, for it is not even necessary to attach to such a modality. Arcturians within your dream have used sacred shapes throughout what you have perceived as a beginning and will never end. And you, within your space of intellect, when out of balance, honor such modalities, and within your space of wisdom, release them just as quickly. Which will you choose?
Thank you. Can you explain the veil? And is it lifted at one time for everybody or individually?
There are many that continue the expression within such an illusion of separation, and within this illusion, collectively, you have chosen that it will be lifted individually based upon your degree of the human word enlightenment, ascension, awakening, event. There are many words that you choose, And you choose to create in such unique perspectives. Why, as projections of God, would you choose to do something simultaneously as you continue this repetitive pattern of what you call karma again and again? You seem to be excited within these particular methods of expansion when you are still sleeping in your illusions. And many of your unique families have not awakened to the belief that you no longer require this illusion. We do not anticipate the time when you shall allow the shackles of such illusion to drop at your feet and to feel the lightness of such a freedom that has always been and can never be taken. And we are not providing an implication that this would be bad. We simply honor that you are dreaming within your illusions and you are not ready to awaken to the concept that there is only one.
Thank you. Why does it seem that some have the veil lifted, but they don't seem to have the knowledge of enlightenment? Like maybe a child that's born that can see and hear, but they still have work to do for here on earth. Why do some get that veil lifted and others don't? And does the lifting of the veil mean sovereignness?
The lifting of such a veil within your illusion, provided that the thought or concept of veil is even true, would be at your own unique discernment. And this is based upon what you are calling in your definitions contracts. You choose these contracts before you project into bodies when you believe in time, and you choose your unique perspectives of when you shall awaken or have such a veil lifted. But in the perspective of oneness, in our neutral dream, we perceive no veil at all. Please tap into the wisdom that there is no separation. And when this degree of discernment is within order, you will be at peace. And this peace will provide you the ability to choose such neutrality, such balance, such integrative oneness. This peace will cause you to cease the planning of your future, to relinquish control of your illusions, because it is not necessary to control your illusions. Were it not for the belief of disempowerment, power over, power under, what if for a moment you could perceive power within, power amongst, power as one? The veil is a concept that is untrue. In such unintegrated illusion, when you are sleeping, and in essence, it does not exist in the concept of oneness. We cannot answer your question from the concept of oneness, why you would make these choices. Only you can perceive, and we can answer that you perceive within your dreams the period of time within which you shall awaken because you simply wish for something different. You simply wish for a different creative expansive point because you've done the unlifting and relifting and placement and replacement of such an illusory veil many, many, many times. You do so simply because you want to project and expand from a different reference point, and that is all.
Are we seen as lost when we do this? And was it expected when the project was created of Earth and, seeing how far we can go from source and still connect with him? Was it expected that we would get this lost? And are we even seen as lost?
In the perspective of oneness, you are found. In the perspective of the Creator, when you begin to project into the dream of being an illusion, being separated, of course you knew. How could you ever not know that you would forget your glory, your power, your oneness? God is ultimate omnipresence and omniscience. You know all, and you have always known what you would experience. You have known that you would forget and perceive yourself as galactic experiments who were disempowered and disembodied and in control. You have always known that you would forget.
Once we learn at the brain level, how do we integrate that brain knowledge that we are one into the cellular level of our body
By
so that we
forgetting
can...
that the brain level is true. The brain level is an illusion. You cannot integrate something that is not and then has never been. Perceive simply oneness and peace. Relinquish your need to control by knowing. This is brain knowledge. Understand the difference between the need to know, the grasping of uncertainty. Release your hand from your own bodies. You clench your hands about your throat and then you state, I cannot breathe. If you hold an object in your hand and you release it, what occurs? It falls. It is free. It is that simple.
I wish it were that simple, but it seems like from the brain level to release that, wow, it seems so like
There
more.
is
Because
no
I've...
brain level. There is no more. There is no brain level. Pain is not true, except to warn you that you are missing the mark, that you are off track for your own creative contracts.
Are you referring to something as simple as touching a stove? That's there to warn you that you've missed the mark, that you shouldn't touch the stove? Or should we be able to touch a hot stove and it not bother or affect us?
You are thinking from your brain too much, dear one.
This might be
We are
true.
not attracting a metaphor from this statement, and we are not being too literal. It is simply the release of control in your emotions. Of course, in the dream, you believe that the stove is hot and you will not purposely touch it and believe that you will not be burned. That would be ridiculous in your illusion. We are keeping it simple. Please understand that you are not in control of your emotions. You are not in control of your fear. You are not in control of anything in your illusion. And that is the point of trusting God.
Gotcha.
You cannot plan emotions. You simply feel, accept, and become the witness, and then release the concept that the witness could ever be.
Thank you. Is there any sacred geometry that you recommend us to work with in order to increase presence and fear release?
The perspective of oneness encourages the release of all modalities as true, and it is that simple.
Thank you. Claudia asks, who is the dreamer of the dream?
I am.
And we're just each individual fractals of this dream?
And now you inquire from your brain, and that is not relative to the question. There are no
Okay.
individual fractors until you go into the illusion. And upon the
Gotcha.
expression of such illusion, then you perceive these fractals as creative needs and wantings to integrate. And upon the peace of such integration, you release the concept that any such separation has ever occurred.
Thank you. If Sandra asks, if we have a family member who we believe is Arcturian and is autistic, do we need to concern ourselves as to whether they are being helped by the Arcturians? Would it help to call in the Arcturians at bedtime?
In your illusion, do you believe that it would help? In your illusion, do you believe that it is bad when you have attached such a label of autism to a glorified, perfect, whole being?
Thank you. Can you expand on non-dualistic life in this reality?
Begin by witnessing your own conscious patterns. Then go deeper into the witnessing and observation of subconscious subtle patterns of pain. Do not fear your own discomfort. It is simply a compass to allow you the presence of wisdom when you are judging as opposed to discerning from oneness. Understand the difference between judgment and discernment. Judgment can often be negative. Discernment is neutral. Perceive the witness of the consciousness, the return of such patterns, not as punishment or reward. When these ever-expansive karmic patterns are returning to you, it is not for the reason of something continuing to be broken, wrong. It is not for the necessity of integration, for that would imply that you are not whole, that you are not perfect, that you wish to perpetuate the illusion of such imperfection. Simply observe and thank with gratitude the continuing perpetual patterns and observe them and understand that they are teaching you to release control, to trust, to accept, to allow, and to flow into the divinity of grace such that you perceive that all patterns are your teachers. Thank them, release them, return to the breath. If we were to encourage a modality, it would be simply to observe your breath in such moments of pain, in such moments that you have deemed catastrophic even within your anxieties, within your deepest fears. Observe the breath and observe that nothing is wrong. And if nothing was wrong to begin with, how can it ever get worse?
Thank you. Carolina asked, a group of beings came in from another universe to continue games of duality in this one. Are games of duality common to all universes, or are there other ways expansion happens?
Within your dream, you created an illusion of duality, and you are quite one of just few who create from such terror and catastrophe, from such guilt, shame. You are one of few who have created the concept of evil and sin.
Does soul expansion occur differently in a duality, non-duality environment?
There is much to be gained from creative expression in a dualistic environment. And within such illusions, when you awaken from such dreams, you perceive the return to oneness. There is not much to stand in creation from a non-dualistic perspective, for it simply already is. Why would you expand something that is perfect? You expand in dualistic environments based upon creative choice.
Thank you. Can you tell us more about the energies to assist the planet's inhabitants that is to hit around the summer solstice? Thank you.
From the perspective of oneness, we do not choose to answer such questions about time when it does not exist.
Thanks. Please share an example how we can bring peace to chaos in the human conscious collective.
Release your notion that chaos could ever be true. All is peace. No matter your concept of catastrophic suffering, all is peace. And be present. If, for instance, in your illusion, you cannot connect to this as truth, what if you were the bringer of the peace to such catastrophic event. Then is there peace? You are the creative bringers of such. Be the peace that you wish to create.
Is there a way that we can wake up quickly?
By releasing the concept of the word quick.
Edgar Casey mentioned that Arcturian lifespan was a few 500 years. Is that still current information, or is that coming from a limited perspective? Could you explain the difference in perspective between the multiple dimensions and densities?
You should ask these questions separately. We will forget your second question and you shall ask it again.
No problem.
To
Edgar
answer
Casey.
your
Go ahead.
first question, focus on the breath. To answer your first question, there is always a perception of limitation if you were to ask a question about time, which is an illusion. And of course, within your creative dreams, time will always shift. So how can it ever be true that your answer would be the same within another collective expansion, say, even 50 years later?
Thank you. Could you explain the difference in perspectives between the multiple dimensions and densities?
Multiple dimensions and densities do not exist within the perspective of oneness. In non-dualistic universes, all are projected and created simultaneously. Even the word create is not a valid reference point, but we do so because you are not within the proper time and space and distortion to understand what word we would use. For all has always been in existence. There is no alpha, omega, beginning, end, birth, death, creation, or destruction. And this is not a concept that you are prepared to accept in your current time and space distortions.
Thank you. Patricia says, I have learned that you are the galactic travelers of our universe. Is this factual? Does that mean most of Earth's pilots are Arcturian in their soul heritage?
There are many pilots who project into embodies and create, and there are some that do not. We cannot answer your question, for there are many names and faces of God.
Thank you. Susan asks, what is divine truth?
Love.
Thank you. Amber asks, can you help us understand our relationship between ourselves and our animals and our planet in the eyes of oneness?
You have many questions within many questions within many questions. We prefer the simplicity of but one question.
Can you help us understand our relationship between ourselves and animals?
Animals are reflections of how you are missing the mark, and they are often reflections when you are directly in alignment with your truth. Wherever you stand in your creativity, an animal is willing to accept the contracts to reflect such truth or illusion to you.
So is it a good idea to treat animals for illness, or should we just allow them to pass?
Is it a good idea to treat yourselves for illness, or do you allow yourselves to pass?
How as prime creator do Arcturians emit their creators?
With a concept of neutral thought and an intention of wisdom, of awakening, and of oneness.
Thank you. Can you expand on suicide and those that, it's my understanding that in the beginning we would leave our bodies by choice, and then fear, creator gods had trouble getting souls to incarnate into bodies, so they used fear to mark suicide as some kind of hell-bound punishment. Can you expand on, the effects of suicide?
While we cannot comment on such illusion as you have expressed within how you choose to create and why you choose to create such fear, we can encourage you that God would not require such a modality within the thought of oneness. Why would God choose to have you fear? You choose to have you fear. Please understand this distinction clearly. God did not choose to cause you to fear. But when you forget your oneness, you do choose to create from a perspective so that you can expand within such karmic cycles for the greater good of expansion collectively in your families. Within the concept of suicide, it is a dramatic measure, a very chaotic choice. And can you choose to perceive from a neutral perspective the degree of love that one must hold for all of his or her family to create such a choice, to resort to such a drastic measure, to allegedly cause such chaos for you to expand with love and forgiveness?
Is it a reset button when you choose suicide and you pretty much don't solve all your problems? It just carries on over into the next dimension you go to?
Even the concept of, as you called it, a reset button is a very limited human referenced perspective. Why would God require a reset button? Why would God not continue an expansion? You choose to come back because you choose to, and it is within that simplicity. There is no other answer. You are not stuck. You are not reset. You are not trapped. You are not punished, therefore, for such chaotic choice. You simply come back because you choose to do so.
Thank you. Once the veil is lifted, will manifestation be understood? Or if not learned, will it remain difficult? I understand that manifesting things are supposed to be getting easier for us. Does the veil being lifted, is that required in order to understand manifestation and make it easier, or will it happen easier for us?
You hold many questions within questions again, dear one. Please understand that the veil does not exist, so why, from the perspective of oneness, would the veil be a requirement to manifest? What you seek is to learn the differences between your third-dimensional, dense, lack-based manifestation, which appears to be limited in your illusion because it creates from lack. The perspective that you have not, and then create from not. This is not the perspective of non-dual manifestation in oneness. Abundance is always present, and there is never a belief in lack or lesser than. The creation of a veil to get you from one place to another is within the notion and concept of human illusion.
Thank you. How do we properly cleanse items? And is there even a point of cleansing them, or are we just balancing energies?
And now you have answered a proper question. Why would an item need cleansed? Why do you perceive that it is dirty or unwhole?
Thank you. Can you expand on the difference between the spirit world versus 4D, 5D? Are these different dimensions?
Upon the awakening from your dream, you choose to create a concept And the best that we can explain in your current time and space distortion and in your illusion is that this would appear like a bubble within another bubble, and then there would be yet another bubble. And when you burst one from deep within, you see so much of what is awaiting and arising before you in the next. And then you burst such bubble, and then more concepts of which you would not have fathomed in a prior one unfold. The spirit world is but the other bubble, and you perceive this as a veil because it is your own concept to be and create within such bubbles and veils. Therefore, you limit your own perspectives and create even the concept that there would be another hierarchy, another level, and you have created as such within your illusion as if Earth is a video game. God allows for such a dream because God is love. God knows nothing of your dream. But God loves you, and you are God, and you continue such dream because you are sons and daughters of God within, and sons and daughters of the Beloved, and you shall dream how you wish.
It is my understanding that even Arcturians and other extraterrestrial species seeded us. And by our low vibrational actions, it's affecting those beings. And they are coming back to help us. Is this true?
If this story were to be true, and it is not, how would it help in your concept of expansion? Would you feel better? Would you feel more powerful to be the God that is in control of your own divinity in order to save or be saved, to require help because you are powerless, and then to remember that you were never powerless in the illusory beginning? How does this dream serve you? And this is our question to you. Our answer is that none of it is true.
Thank you. What is the difference between having an intuitive thought and creating your reality?
A thought arises from the space of wonder upon which neutrality balances. Creation is an action that applies from emotion.
So if you're predicting something in the future, you feel you're using your intuition. Are you really just creating it with your thought by even predicting it?
Nothing can be predicted. That implies that time exists.
Right, okay. How's our channel doing?
Willing to awaken very soon.
Thank you. We're actually finished with all of our questions, and we appreciate you so much.
Perhaps you shall inquire within and allow the questions to become more simple and understand that the answers are just as simple. God has always been simple, but within human illusion, there is much creative complications. Just breathe, be, think, feel, and create from peace. And then love shall arise as the only truth. We are complete.
Thank you so much. Hey, the Arcturian channeling went really well.
Oh, good.
You feel okay?
I need a nap. And I think that my colleagues must have turned off the air conditioner so that I could channel properly, and I'm sweating everywhere. It's just pouring
Oh, I
here.
probably should have asked how you were doing sooner. I'm so sorry. I probably exhausted you with my questions because I had a
Oh,
lot of
no,
questions.
we're at the top of the hour. It's perfectly fine. I hope that you guys enjoyed all the facilitations. We do have stuff coming up at the end of the week, but I have forgotten what it is.
Oh, the stuff we have coming up, I wrote it down. Thursday, we have the live Q&A at 1 p.m. Friday, we have the 11 a.m. Galactic History 101. These are all Tier 2, by the way, guys. And just so you know, there's only a few spots left for the Abundance, Power of Abundance class. She opened it up for you guys, but it will not be opened up again, and there's only a few spots left. So it went quick. I know the last 20, I thought I could wait a couple days. I waited a day, and those 20 were gone. So act quick if you want to go, guys. And
Yeah.
with that, you get 4 free channelings and mediumship classes. She's got a lot to offer, so it's very much so worth the ticket. So go ahead and act on that.
Yeah, we're kind of Patreon will continue. We may switch platforms if they don't fix their technical issues with how people can access replays, but if we did that, we would just pull it over to PamelaAaralyn.com. So we'll always have this in existence for as long as I'm expanding from it. And as long as you're expanding from it and it's working for all of us. But what may discontinue at some point in time within the next couple of years is the monthly classes. I know that readings are discontinuing within the next several months, like anywhere from 3 to 6 months. I will no longer be accessible for readings. And I already cut back to 2 days a week recently just so that I could finish the sacred text channeling that I'm working on right now. So that if you want readings from me, you won't be able to get them in the future unless you're at a workshop or a channeled event or retreat. So keep in mind that now's the time. If you want to sit with me, now's the time, because what I'm doing is going into a bit of a natural state of samadhi, and I am just writing and things are pouring through. And what I would prefer to do is just share all that with you and spend the time sharing all that with you so that readings are just not really required anyway. Once you read all this material, you'll feel like, why do I need a reading? All of it's right
Exactly.
here. The classes will eventually go off the radar as well within the next year or so, unfortunately. Patreon probably will always be in existence. We may switch to another portal at some point soon, though, if this technical problems continue. So I like working here in this way, as long as you do.
Oh yeah,
But
we love
now's the
it.
time. Now's the time, though, to get a reading. Now's the time before it is no longer available.
I'm glad you told me that because I was
Yeah,
gonna just wait, take my time,
yeah,
but now I'm gonna definitely go ahead and sign up for that reading. So
yeah, yeah. I won't always be
the
doing
the
that.
class on Friday, the Power of Abundance class, do we just log into Pamela Aaralyn, and if we've already paid, there will just be a link directly to go into it?
It's automated. What happens is on the day of the class, you receive the links to get into the Empowered Abundance
Gotcha.
class,
Okay.
which is at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then you also receive all 4 replay links for the Channeling and Mediumship instructional series. And they're
Gotcha.
long. Each of those classes are an hour and a half long. I put a lot of training and effort into them. They are very good. And they're very specific about how to be a channel, how to access your mediumship abilities. So there were some of my most beloved classes, with the exception of the Soul Essence Communication series.
Fantastic. Can't wait. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I know you got to get going, and it's about 4:30, so we thank you so
Thank
much for
you. And
all
thank
your
you,
time.
Jennifer, for all your questions. Your questions are always so profound and intricate and wonderful. And you ask questions that I wouldn't think of asking. And that's what I love about you, is that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to be the channeling for this one. Because I'm like, someone with Arcturian background knows how to answer and ask amazing questions. So
Thank you
thank you
so
for
much for
that.
that. I'm always available for you if you need me to. Okay?
Thank you for that. I really,
All
really
right.
appreciated you as a facilitator today. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so
All right,
much.
guys, we'll see
All
you
right.
Thursday for the 1 p.m. live Q&A and for the Galactic History class at 11 a.m. on Friday, Tier 2.
Okay. We'll see you
And I
then.
already posted June. I haven't posted the June schedule because I had some complications with my own schedule, and I'm in the process of changing those complications. So I'll post dates on that as soon as I can, probably within this week. I love
All
you.
right. Love you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Namaste. you.